Hey, what is going on guys? My name is Scotty, welcome back to a brand new Call of Duty Warzone 2 video. In today's video, I'll be showing you guys 5 tips on how to get better in Warzone 2 overall, so you guys can win more gunfights, have better gameplays, and overall see yourself improve within Warzone 2. Before we get into the video, if you guys need help getting new contracts or finding good players to play with, feel free to join my Discord down below in the description. There's tons of great players on there, always running with each other, so if you want some good players to play with, that's the place to be. Welcome back to the channel for my return subscribers and a warm welcome for the new ones as well. So guys, a lot of my videos recently have been how to get better in terms of getting nukes, but what I thought I would do today is kind of lean into how to just overall get better within Warzone, so those tips can also transfer over to getting nukes. So as I said, that's what we'll be doing today, is covering 5 tips to help you guys get better, and if this video does well, I'll probably do an additional 5 tips or maybe an additional 5 on top of that as well, depending on how the video does. So if you guys are looking for some great tips on how to improve overall, this is one of the videos to check out. But with all that said and out of the way, let's hop into tip number 1 on how to improve in Warzone 2. So guys, tip number 1 is going to revolve around classes, and since this video is going to be up, and if it does well, it'll be shown across different metas, because metas change all the time. But what I want to cover in this tip is pretty much just using the right classes. Now what I mean by this is always using meta classes if you do want to see yourself improve. Now don't get me wrong, it's fun to use some guns that are not as great, but you're going to always want to use the guns that are the best to use in terms of TTK, mobility, speed, and stuff like that. So right now, as of July 10th, some of the best guns to use are the Lockman 5.56, the ISO 45, the KV broadside, and as well as some okay guns like the Hemlock, the RPK, and the TAC 56. So when you guys use the right guns, it's always going to be better for you guys getting kills, because you're going to be competing against sweaty players who are going to use the metas for sure. So using those are always going to have you having just some kind of advantage overall, because the last thing you want to do is go against someone who has the ultimate meta right now in Warzone and using something pretty trash like the Tech 9 or the Bison. And the second part of the right classes tip is making sure that you guys are using the right attachments for each gun. Now of course there's always like the best class subs, but some people just like to use their own attachments and tunings. So what I recommend for that is always using attachments that can balance out the gun, because the last thing that you want is a heavy SMG, because SMGs are up close and personal, and if your SMG is slow, you're going to have a very hard time winning those close and fast gunfights. And as well on the opposite side, you don't want an AR that's going to have bad recoil or low damage, because if you're shooting people at range, you're going to want to have accuracy and you're going to want to be getting some easy kills. So make sure you guys are always balancing out what your gun needs, because if you don't have the right attachments for that gun, you're going to struggle with getting those kills, and you're using the gun wrong, so at the wrong ranges, your gun will definitely suffer. So guys, tip number 2 on how to get better in Warzone 2 is knowing when to push enemies. Now there are many different scenarios, there's many different reasons that you can or cannot push, so take this with a grain of salt because every scenario is different. But when it comes to pushing, I like to make sure that either we have the upper hand in terms of team numbers. So if we took one of their guys out and we know where they are and we have 4 people and they have 3, that is a great way to push. Or if we know that they just landed in and they don't have weapons, or they're already fighting another team, third partying is always a great choice as well. So anywhere that you see that there's an advantage for your team, that is definitely a great time to push, as long as you are not out in the open or putting yourself in a scenario where you are going to have a chance at getting killed. You're pretty much set to push. Things I would avoid pushing are when they have high ground and you do not, or when they have cover and you're in the open, or when you guys are outnumbered. Because when you're outnumbered even by 1 player, if that team is sweaty, you're going to have a hard time getting all 4 of them out, because you're already down by 1 player. So if they hit a second player off, then it's a 2v4, and that is the last thing you want, is a 2v4 a sweaty team, especially if you yourself are not the best player. So guys, tip number 3 is practicing your aim. Now not everyone has aim labs or anything like that on PC where you can practice your aim and shooting. Some people play on console, and that is fine. So what I do, especially as someone who normally plays on PS5 and PC, is when I'm playing on PS5, I just prefer to go into some multiplayer, get my shot warmed up, or go into the target range and just practice my firing, or even just have a warm-up match in Warzone just to get everything steady and get locked in. There's many different ways you can practice warming up your aim, because at the end of the day, your aim is going to be the thing that makes or breaks how your game goes. You can't be missing shots, especially in important scenarios. But as well, when it comes to aim, I always definitely recommend trying out new ways of your controller settings or your keyboard and mouse settings. Experimenting with your aim sensitivities and just your controller layouts and stuff like that can definitely help you improve in terms of getting better aim. I currently don't have any videos of that yet, but if you guys want to check out some videos on YouTube on how to increase your aim, there's definitely a lot of great ones out there, so definitely check out some of those, because practicing your aim is going to be very important to getting some easy kills, easy wins, and just overall improving in Warzone 2. So tip number 4 is using the right perks. Now the right perks can mean something to everyone in different ways. Some people like to use Ghost as their ultimate perk, some people like to use Bird's Eye, some people like to use Survivor, but for me personally, as someone who likes playing aggro, I do love using Ghost as my final perk. So for me, most of the time when it comes to my perk packages, I like to use a combination of Double Time, Tracker, Resupply, and Ghost, just because I'll be moving faster, I know where enemies are when we're in close range scenarios, I'll always get my equipment back up, and I'll have Ghost to keep me under the radar so I don't get pushed by teams, especially especially if I'm in a stronghold area or anything like that. So definitely experiment with what perks work best for you. There's definitely ones that are a lot better in terms of just getting you alive, getting you pretty much to win gunfights and stuff like that. But yeah, as I said, I recommend Double Time, Tracker, Resply, and Ghost as my layout. So if you don't use those ones, give it a shot because that's a great choice for me and I've been loving it. I have no complaints really. And then tip number 5 is map awareness, and this one covers many different things. So the first one is always going to be your minimap in the top left corner. I watch that pretty much just as much as I watch my screen. Sometimes it gets me killed, of course, but especially when there's UAVs in the air or we have an advanced or we have the stronghold pings, I love to always be watching my top left corner so I know where enemies are at all times. Especially if I'm not fighting anybody, then I really don't have any reason to not be looking at my radar when there's pings around me. Seeing those red dots, seeing what level they're on, if they're above me or below me and where they are, it's gonna help me push those teams. It's gonna help me know exactly who's pushing me as well. And then when I do get into gunfights, I always do keep a quick eye out on my top left corner, especially in Resurgence 2. That's gonna be one of the most important things, is always watching that minimap. But yeah, when you're fighting people and getting knocks, just check the top left corner every once in a while and see if there's anyone on there, so you can always have a little one up in terms of who's around you and whatnot. And then the second part of map awareness is just knowing what's happening, especially in very heated scenarios where there's enemies all over the place. I like to never push out in the open unless I know it's absolutely clear, and even when I do that, I always throw some smokes to rotate in heavy gunfights. But the best things to always do is just check the surrounding areas, check windows, check rooftops, because that's gonna be where most players are in those heated scenarios. And as well, just check things like bushes, check different buildings, different head peaks, because especially in heated scenarios, the last thing you want to do is get caught lacking. That's gonna be one of the worst options for you. But overall, just make sure you're always trying to look around, see where the rush routes are, see where enemies are, how they're playing and whatnot, because map awareness is gonna be one of the most important things to keeping you guys alive longer in Warzone 2. So here you have it, guys. These are 5 of my tips right now for getting better at Warzone 2. Let me know what you guys think of these tips, and as well, if you guys have any tips of your own, feel free to drop them down below in the comment section. I'd love to see what you guys have for tips. As I said, if this video does well, I'll definitely make a part 2, part 3, and whatnot. So let's try blowing this video up. Let's see how this video can do and whatnot. But with all that said and out of the way, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. If you guys did enjoy today's video, you're always welcome to hit that like button to show support for all things Call of Duty here on the channel. And if you have not subscribed yet, you're always welcome to do so. I post all things Call of Duty, including tips and tricks, class ups, loadouts, and everything like that. So you're always welcome to stay tuned for more videos. But once again, I hope you guys did enjoy watching. My name is Scotty, and have a great day.